Hi, it's David Jones before the curtain goes up, and we're going to the opera, darling. We're going to the opera. We have here, say, a bell with the Book of My Shames. That sounds heavy. And it's an opera, but it's not really an opera. What the heck's going on? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, David. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you studied opera.
I
Yeah.
did, yeah. And I
Yes.
continue to study it, to be honest. It's an ongoing pursuit. It's a lifelong journey.
Nice. And these are your words. You wrote this show. So it's based on a true experience. Now, were you encountering, I'm assuming because it's about shame, there was issues about sexuality that were popping up in opera? Is that?
That's an interesting thing actually, because often with this show, because I'm a queer artist and we tour queer festivals, there's an assumption that the shame is specifically gay related. But
Oh,
as anyone knows who grew up religious, I think shame in that environment can far predate any knowledge of gender identity or sexual orientation. So that isn't actually the central shame that's being discussed.
there's a lot of shame to go around.
There's so much.
So this is more about your religious upbringing, what religion were you up brought in?
Well, I was so it's I mean that's kind of the seed of the story. The story sort of follows a person through a life where external circumstances change, but the internal story of sort of not enoughness remains unchanged. That's kind of the central tension of the opera. And I was raised fundamentalist Christian, like evangelical Christian. I was raised on a sort of community slash cult in northern BC in the 90s, 80s and 90s. And and it's not the story isn't so much a continuous narrative about all that as it is about the ramifications of learning about yourself and learning about your identity in a certain way before you were old enough to really be able to call BS.
I love the term, what was it? Not enoughness? Is that
Not
what you,
enough.
I love that term. I was like, as you were talking, I'm listening, going, don't forget that word, don't forget that word. Um, so so this sounds like well, right off with just that description, it sounds like, that sounds like a very heavy experience.
Well, what we try to say when we're talking about the show, especially because, as you say, it's opera, which people already conceive of as pretty heavy, and because it's called The Book of My Shames, there's an idea that it's something you're going to be sort of dragged through the muck, and it's like someone's having therapy in front of you, and there, I won't say that there isn't suffering in the piece, but but I think an essential part of it is that most people, especially if you're in the theater, most people who have experienced some kind of trauma or difficulty in their past find a way to deal with it with humor. And so actually your entry into the show and my way of interacting with the people who come to the show is very light and humorous. And I think sometimes that's the only way in life and in theater that we can really communicate when we're talking about things that lie underneath the surface, heavy things. I saw this show last night, Old Stock. I don't know if you've seen it. It's beautiful.
It's about a beer.
What it's actually about is uh, about Jewish refugees in the early 20th century to Canada, and just the story of people fleeing pogroms and everything, which is like this. I mean, actually much heavier than this in a way. Really heavy stories of really terrible things that happen to people, but the experience of seeing the show is one where you see the life force that's in these people, and then when they revisit the trauma later on, you're more open to it and you can experience it more wholeheartedly because you've been eased in with humor. And I think that I noticed the same architecture in my show. It's a different kind of trauma, and I think it's less generational and more specific to a person. But the idea is that if you we all want to be open to connect with other people and even to connect with people suffering and to offer our attention to people suffering, but I find you can't do that when it is sort of thrown into your face, you know? The only way that you can really offer presence to someone as a normal person who you're not like a professional compassion worker or whatever is that you meet the person as a person and see them as they are, and then if you warm up to them, then you have a little more capacity to absorb some of what they've experienced that they want to share with you. And then hopefully we hope this, and I certainly think they try to do this in Old Stock too. You hope that you'll resonate with it and you'll get some sense of catharsis from your own experience as well. So it's
Wow.
that's what we hope is the case.
Nice. So now, because you studied opera, was there an opera that was sort of like the catalyst that as you were studying this opera and listening to it and maybe learning to sing something from it, you suddenly went, I love this. And I love this so much. I want to take this has inspired me to write my story. What opera inspires you?
It's interesting because that of course like all of the music that I've studied is an influence and I work on is an influence on what I do. But in some ways it's the lack of an opera that resonates with my story that leads me to create this.
Oh,
Which isn't to say there I mean there's incredible work over 400 years of that I'm getting influence from. But one thing that I will say, I actually take a lot of inspiration from the music of Kurt Weill, who Bertolt Brecht,
cynical. Yeah.
yeah, in the sort of first half of the 20th century, first in Germany and then fleeing Germany to New York. There's a way that they, especially later on, Kurt Weill integrates this very sort of raw cabaret Berlin aesthetic with sort of the simple melodies of sort of like the a little like pop music at the time and like Broadway at the time. So
Right.
this combination of that, and well, I'm just talking about old stuff because I saw it last night, but that idea of this sort of klezmery kind of music, very upbeat, very rhythmic, that's then blended into a classical aesthetic, or that expands to be sort of a fusion genre. That's kind of what we do too. It's sort of cabaret, it's sort of art song. There's some opera, and I mean, of course, I'm a classically trained singer, so that's going to be a part of the sound. But it's not so much a throwback to opera as it is sort of a blending of that kind of way of seeing and hearing music with a more modern aesthetic.
Nice. I like that in 400 years of opera, there's just not enough operas about shame.
Well, I mean, it's funny because, of course, I know that you're joking, and of course
I
that there
know.
is, and of course, La Traviata and all this stuff. But of course, there's a lot of things. The things that I'm interested in talking about, which you may know if you come to the show or whoever watches this comes to the show, the specific things that I'm interested in talking about. There was so much shame in the past that we couldn't bring it into in front of the public.
Oh,
You know,
totally.
some of
Totally.
the really we call it the awkward underbelly of life in some of the material, like some of the stuff. It's like you were only even able to speak the words, now.
Uh,
So
I just love the way you use words. It's nice. I wish I had a pad of paper. I just keep writing stuff down that you say. So okay, well, let's try another question. What's an opera that you studied that you go, I don't want my opera to be anything like this one?
well, you don't want to alienate anyone, but
Well, they're all dead.
there's the thing about opera that I mean I do love opera, and also I don't go to opera as much as I used to. When I was in school and when I was studying. And one of the reasons for that is that our attention spans are changing. And so I find sometimes I'll go to the first half of an opera, it'll be beautiful, and it's a 3.5 hour opera or whatever, and I will have gotten what I needed from the first half. It's basically the length of a movie. And you get the idea, and you're like, okay, thanks, I'm gonna go to bed now.
Yeah.
Um, and
It,
so with a lot of so much opera up until the 20th century was these really long things, and I just don't have the bandwidth for it. Like so 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 that's something that we're hoping to address, and I'm really interested in preserving what's amazing and beautiful about opera and letting go the parts of the tradition that don't serve us now as living people. So the length is one thing.
nice. Well, and that's true of like all arts, like old theater plays and stuff like that. You're like, oh my God, you could get rid of the first 50 pages of the script because you
Yes.
spent all this time setting up the characters. And
Yeah.
then at the end of this act, you go, by the way, she's pregnant. And it's like, let's start the play there. Start the play on, by the way, she's pregnant. We'll figure out the characters later.
Could have moved
Right.
quickly.
And but yeah,
Yeah.
you find that with classic plays as well. I think the genre, I think they felt they used to have to spoon feed information to the audience before they could bring them into the plot. And it's like, no,
And
no,
also, people wanted their money's worth because there wasn't other entertainment. You couldn't just go home and watch Netflix. And now we really want a hit, for better or worse, we want a hit of entertainment. And when I see that a show is 80 minutes no intermission, which is what this show is, the reason this show is like that is because I think that's what I want to go to. Old Stock, which I went to last night, 80 minutes no intermission. So you're gonna get in, you're gonna see the thing, and you're gonna get out. And hope then, because the longer it goes on, I saw an incredible Handel opera in Salzburg a couple of years ago, like that was like 4 hours long, and every minute of it was incredible, but I just couldn't metabolize it all, you know?
right.
And
Yeah,
it was my
yeah,
favorite singer was in it, and I loved it, but like at a certain point, I was like, I wish I could come back and see the rest of this in 2 days, you know?
yeah. Nice. Two parts. The one thing that I found about opera, I don't go to it a lot, but this is just my thing, and I don't know why I'm telling you. I just find if they're doing a comedy opera, they're not very funny.
This is actually an essential thing that I think about all the time. I call it like sort of opera acting or opera mugging, where and that's why. So part of it is just that it's hard to do humor in music, especially if it's what people found funny 300 years ago. And part of it is just there's so many. I could do a dissertation on this, but that's so in our show. The humor is mostly found in the parts where I'm talking directly to the audience, and it's much more my sort of natural modality, as a person, and then moving into the music. You feel like the talking is a way to sort of meet people. Someone who came to it, actually, the drag queen Vivian Vanderpuss. I don't know if you're
Yes, I
familiar.
know the name.
So Vivian's incredibly, but before I knew her as Vivian Vanderpuss, she's a friend of Sean Guest who co-wrote this show with me, co-created the show, and she came to the show. And at the talkback afterwards, she said, which I've always remembered, and I thought it was a lovely thing. She was like, watching this is like getting to know a person. Like you meet the person in the way that you do, like when I'm meeting you right now. You're chatting about the weather, and you're getting to know on a very surface level, and then the more you talk to them, the deeper you go in, and as you care about them more, you also learn more about what makes them them. And so I think that's what we try to do with the show. And but I didn't realize that that's what we were doing until Vivian said that.
It's always neat when someone reflects back to you. This is what your show is, and you're like, oh, well, it was for you, but maybe it is that, right?
Well, I mean, she's a theater person anyway, and if you watch her on RuPaul's Drag Race Canada or whatever, you see
Right.
that you
No,
see the understanding with her.
I apologize. I'm on a patio and some people were walking over my cord, so I was just signaling them to like, don't trip on the cord, don't make Isaiah go away. So cool. So what I would love for you to do now, Isaiah, because this sounds fascinating, you sound fascinating. The fact that you sound fascinating means that your work is going to be fascinating. It's a short run. You are going to have a chance now to sell this show. I do this how I end all my interviews. You're going to look right at your little green dot, so not at the screen, look right at the camera, and I'm going to count you in, and you're going to tell people why they should plunk down their spare change to come and see your show. What they're going to get out. What's in it for me? Answer those questions. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
I think you should come to this show because the medium that we're working in is truth is presence. And this is something that the more I see high production values in Marvel movies and on Netflix, the less truth and presence I often see. I think there's so much craft, there's so much funding, and sometimes you miss the actual live energetic presence of a person in a room being honest and looking you in the eye. And that's what we hope to accomplish with this show.
Fantastic, and we're going to tickle your ears with some opera as well. Yeah. Well, thank you, Isaiah, so much for talking with me. I'm looking forward to the show. And I think this sounds like a remarkable accomplishment. I bet it's blowing people away across Canada. Are you touring down into the States as well?
We plan to. I'm an American citizen as well, so it's easier for me to
What?
work down there.
Okay.
No, I'm a dark horse, but we plan to, but we don't have the date set yet.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Well, thanks so much for talking with me. Bye.
Thanks, David.
Oh, does the fat lady die?
Well, I'm trying to lose weight for this next show I'm in, so.
All right. Thanks so much for talking to me. Bye.